So from a Christian perspective, kasi feeling ko people have forgotten how or why sex can be harmful. Soul ties, but I don't know how to perfectly explain soul ties. Can you explain it, Dana? Because I cannot.
Oh yeah, I understand what you're trying to say. Na,
Mhm.
sometimes we're just so mindless. We don't ask the questions like, why are we doing this? Why are we, partaking in this? Why am I going with the flow? We don't really ask when we're in that kind of whirlwind, diba? And come on, let's face it, sex is like one of the, if not the best. I mean, God designed sex to be some sort of foresight to heaven, right? That's why when the act is being done, sometimes you utter the name of God, diba? Because it's a force. It's like a slice of heaven on earth, right? Even Bruno Mars sang about it. Ano yung song niya na Heaven, Heaven, na parang about sex din naman, di ba? So, I know what you're talking about, soul ties. So, simply put, in the Christian world, there's this concept, if you may, it's a concept that when you have sex with someone, your souls have been tied together. And then when you separate, some parts of his soul and your soul, parang vis-a-vis, nag-split and may nakuha ka dun sa taong yon. As a believer, as a biblical believer, I don't think it's true. It is not true because flesh lang yung sinasabi sa Bible. To become one flesh. It's not one soul. Your soul is the Lord's. No one has access to that.
Mhm.
So when we say na my soul tie, I think I also experience a sense of hopelessness na parang, hala, ang dami ko ng soul ties. Alam mo yun, yung parang, what do I do with all these?
Yeah.
But in reality, what the church fails to communicate is that these are not soul ties, but physical ties. Because when you
Mm.
see the invisible effects of sex, memories in your mind crystallize. You have this deep bond with that person because the hormones are released when you do it. Dahil, di ba, pag parents kayo, kailangan meron, that's why God designed sex for marriage because when you have sex with someone, it's so easy to latch onto that person kahit gaano ka-toxic kasi mechanism siya eh. Para hindi mo siya iwan eh, 'di ba? Till death do you part. That's why sex is the glue. Na parang minsan we find ourselves being in toxic relationships. Sex kayo ng sex, hindi mo maiwan but you have all the reasons to. That's the magic of sex, right? So when we talk about soul ties, I don't agree with the concept. I know it's being widely talked about in church. I'd rather we discuss the physical consequences of sex and then encourage girls to focus on the rebuilding of their relationship with Christ because their souls belong to him anyway. So that's how I would break down the concept of soul ties because more often than not, girls feel so helpless na wala na, andito na siya sa akin forever. Biological siya.
In the way I would attack your question, Tina, is like people already know that sex could be harmful. For some weird reason, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
And I think what we're missing out on is like, so I'm a communication expert, right? So for me, what's missing is what was it supposed to be back? And the
Nice.
missing link is always like, sex was actually meant to be pretty awesome. Like, as a Christian, I would have to believe that God invented sex. And he knew what he was doing when he invented it, right? Like a designer, when you create like furniture, like a chair is meant to be sat on. Sure, you can make it a table. You can eat from a chair, right? But is that what it was designed for? It would be super uncomfortable and you don't get the maximum benefit. So I think from that perspective palang, sex was invented within the realm or like the filter and the limitations of marriage because that's when you get like the maximum pleasure. Because anything outside of that, sure, it'll feel, I mean, like, come on, like, it's pretty good, like, physically. But that's it? Like, one night? That's it? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. And
Yeah.
from like a neuro perspective, psychologists have really said nga na parang, okay, let's go back to the harm. It's more when you're building a relationship and you start with sex. Technically, your body, because you produce like dopamine while you're having sex with someone, magiging clouded na yung judgment mo because you've associated that person with happiness. You build an addiction towards that person, not because of their values, not even because of like how they look, but just because you shared an experience that had that tie. Yeah, it's harmful because wala, parang rose-colored glasses ka na forever.
Forever.
Just because of that one like orgasmic moment. Wala na. You're just gonna hang on to that moment as if it was something bigger, like that he's a better person.
That's true. That's why they say sex complicates things because it does.
I super agree with what they both said. Like me, I grew up Christian ever since I was young. So it's been ingrained in my mind na you have to reserve it for marriage. You have to first should be your last. That alone, I also think explains why there are Christian women who, let's say, they lose it. In a moment of pleasure, in the height of things, they lose it. And even if they know that that person isn't for them, because they're so glued to the fact that my first should be my last, my first should be my last, they're gonna hold on to the toxicity, to the relationship, even if it's toxic, just to fulfill nako, I slept with a guy that I'm not supposed to sleep with.
Yeah.
So it becomes about protecting the virginity rather than pleasing God. Even it becomes about I lost this, so to compensate for my sin, I have to marry this guy.
I have to stick it out with him. Yeah, exactly. Correct.
That answers the question then now, why do women stay in toxic relationships then complain that men are trash?
Wow.
It's connected to that question.
Oh, cheers. Okay. It all points back to our Messiah complex. We feel like we can change. Man, we feel like we're the exception to the rule. Ito, mag-iiba na to. This time, mag-iiba na to. But again, you're just feeding another pattern, another cycle, behavioral pattern mo na hindi mo naman ina-address yung roots, right? Ang masakit dyan, nag-generalize tayo. Tapos, inaapi na natin yung mga lalaki. Ako talaga, ginawa ko to dati. Talagang, I choose the most toxic boys and then generalize that all men are assholes. When in reality, well, Dana, you've been handpicking the really wrong ones. And it took a while for me to really bring that to the Lord and say, you know what, God, I believe there are good, godly men out there, and I've met them. I've met some of them and have cultivated good friendships with them. So, yun lang. Siguro, inisip natin na
we can change.
Pag binigay natin lahat, magbabago sila. But you know what? Good sex, even load? Even load, even allowance, even feeding that person will not make him change. You know what will make him change? His own decision to change. And God. And God. Right?
No,
Kasi
but
feeling natin
true,
they owe it to us to change. Dahil nga binigay ko na lahat. I've given you my body. I've allowed you in my home. Now change. Parang, what? Hindi mangyayari yun like that. It's not that transaction, ikaw ang lugi dyan.
Correct. And you give so much and you expect them to give you the same amount that you have given them. And they don't. So you keep giving more. Hanggang sa wala na natira sa'yo.
I think it also has to do with, like what you said, Teena, expectation, right? As women, we have standards, we have ideals. So there's always an expectation from our part. And one thing I learned, in my past relationships and dating and all that is expectation is a very, very dangerous thing. And when we don't get what we expect, the easy way out is to label them as trash. Oh, this guy's a jerk. Or this guy's an asshole. Just because you don't get what you expect from them. And usually that expectation is coming from a place of wanting to fill a void and when you feel lonely, right? One thing that really, really stuck with me, I attended a wedding sometime like last year. And then the pastor said, do you think God designed marriage for you to be happy? So the crowd was like, yeah, of course. And he's like, no, you're wrong. God designed marriage for you to become more like Jesus. And I'm like, oh, wow. That's so true. People look at having a partner as a source of happiness. This person is supposed to make me happy. But in reality, no, this person is supposed to make you more like Jesus because iron sharpens iron. Therefore, you're going to have conflict. And it's the choice of, I will love this person like how Jesus loves me. Because even if this person doesn't deserve it, I don't deserve it also. Women have a tendency to complain, doesn't meet their expectations. And they will never meet our expectations because they're human. They're not God. They're not Jesus. That's why you need the grace and the patience to choose them every day when you're married.
Correct. If a man has a relationship with God, they will also have those sentiments for you. And at the same time, you can both grow together. You know what? I never heard it that way. Na a marriage will mold you to be more Christ-like. Even when you said it, I was like, what do you mean more like Christ-like? But you practice patience, you practice how to forgive, you practice. So in that sense, I get it na parang the characteristics of how to be Christ-like, you learn or you even like, paano ba, hone? Oh, is that the right word? Parang you get to practice, so you get better at it. Oh, nga, no? I didn't think about that. Kasi that's true. Maraming natitest at maraming nag-fail. That's why the divorce rate is super duper high. People will not bother to try. Yun nga, that's why guys, Christian relationships tayo. I don't know, baka bias kasi tayo kasi we're all Christians here.
To take away the bias, I think to simply put it, I think to be with another sinner is just a lot of work. Ang dami ko pang issues eh.
Do you want to
Right?
expound on that? Do you want to expound on that?
Si Lou. I want to hear Lou's thoughts.
As a woman who has dated a series of trashy men, I
You want to say hi in case someone who
don't have.
I realized
Yeah.
It's very, balanced.
Balance to.
Yeah, we all
because
have.
I love the color red. So lahat ng red flags. Oh my gosh, yes! I've seen red flags after a red flag after red flag after red flag, but still I chose to be with that person because I never realized the red flags in me.
Nice.
I don't think people spend enough time to look at themselves, right? They're so concentrated on like what's wrong with the other person that you don't even stop and think, why are you even accepting that person in your life? What's the red flag in you? What is your belief system in love? And this is so funny. So I was talking to my therapist / life coach yesterday. I was trying to like dissect this whole like pattern of dating, speaking factual, unemployed men. And before she even found out that part, she asked me like, what is love for you? What is your belief system on love? What does that look like? And I was like, oh, like you have to be the priority. You have to spend time. And she was like, okay, do you see anything there? And I was like, what are you trying to get at? You know, tell me. And she was just like, who are the men who have the most time
Unemployed men.
to spend on you? Unemployed men.
Whoa, what a
And so
revelation,
what
Lou.
revelation. And the thing
Oh
is,
my gosh, who is your therapist?
dude, she's so good.
I didn't think I needed one until now.
What? Like, oh nga. And the thing is, it's not necessarily bad, but it's because like my belief system on love is like they have to spend a lot of time with you, and you have to be the first call. When I'm done with work, I want like a message from them. And the only people
Lord.
who can afford I didn't see that they could not provide. I did not see that they were verbally abusive. Not naman all of them, no, but like some of them could be verbally abusive. My belief system is like, ito lang yung love, ito lang, time lang. So you show me that, you're good. And then obviously that's not enough, right? And then you don't really want to admit to yourself that like, oh, I chose that. So then I'll just call them trash.
That's true.
But you signed up for it, you know?
Can I connect it to another question? Kasi very, very tayo in that same Why do women talk to men who are in relationships? That's a lot. A lot of people ask this. Medyo rin ako.
Lou, ako, ikaw.
Medyo, past self, may guilt. Guilty. Why? Why nga ba? Alam mo yung parang you don't naman mean to. You don't mean to intentionally do it na parang, this guy has a relationship, I'm gonna talk to him. Not like that. So I've never really broken it down in my head, but it's happened to me multiple times. Not because I'm out to get the guy, right? I don't know, maybe I'm an alpha female that likes the challenge, I guess. But it's not even the goal. I really don't know why the past self would do that, but maybe it does have something to do with being challenged, wanting what you can't have. That's how I explain it. And that's not the viewers watching who will watch this. Please do not the past self.
Do not.
That's one way to look at it, no? Parang challenge siya. Siguro personally to me, it's I think it's a very common experience shared by many girls. When I was going through that, in denial. In denial ka na may something na, hindi, wala to. Yung you keep downplaying it. Yung downplay ka ng downplay. Ang tanga mo na, kaka-downplay. Yung, wala to, kaya ko to.
Hindi, friends lang.
Feeling ko yung ang tanga mo na.
Ang tanga mo na eh, di ba? Yung parang, alam mo naman, in your heart, the Holy Spirit's like, Dana, walk away. Pero hindi, I got this. I got this.
I have self-control.
Yan, ganyan. Yung mga language natin in our heads na, ano lang, hangout lang. Enjoy mo yung hangout. Isa pa ulit. Wala lang to. And then the next thing you know, you're in a deep kind of rut because you're now stuck in this kind of situationship with someone who's taken. And you're just like, you keep harming yourself being with that person and constantly choosing to keep going. You're being naive. Ayaw mong tingnan yung reality and ayaw mong i-acknowledge na you have the tendency that you don't see your wretchedness na. Kasi may ganun ako noon eh, na hindi, yuck, not that sin. Alam mo yun, ang yabang eh. Ang yabang talaga. Kaya nung na-humble din naman ako, talagang said sa lupa. Parang Marimar moment. Yung kinain niya yung bracelet dun sa...
reference.
Marimar. Of course, 90s tayo eh. Marimar. At the end of it, you know, you repent and you turn back and you acknowledge your tendencies and really be smart with yourself. I mean, self-mastery, right? And the humility naman. Na tanggapin mo na yung karupukan mo. Nag-PhD ka na nga dyan eh. Feeling mo kaya mo pa, diba?
Well, for me, opposite of Dana, I did not downplay anything. I knew exactly what I was doing.
So parang mas kay Mika, na-challenge ka?
Hindi siya challenge. I didn't care. Because for me, like, I've never cheated. I'm in a relationship, I'm like good. For a season in my life, I really believed if I'm not the one who made the promise, I don't care. I was so dependent on acting based on how guilty the man would feel. So if the guy doesn't seem like he cares, why would I care? And I also didn't know myself well enough to have like standards of what is the line I'm not gonna cross. Because I kept moving it. At that point, I was like,
may lane ka, but you kept moving.
I kept moving it. Yung parang like, I would never do this. And then you do it, and it's like, but I would never, like, I think that's what Dana was saying, that parang, but not that sin.
Yeah.
You just keep moving the line because I didn't have, any kind of rock solid belief system on morals and values. I did, but then it kept changing because I based it on my feelings and my mood.
It's so funny because I feel like, yeah, look, just because we can relate doesn't mean it's right, guys. We're just saying
Yeah. And then, no. It wasn't like, oh, this guy's taken, target acquired. It wasn't that. Siyempre, I would prefer somebody that's not taken, right? But some of these guys would also be like, oh, I don't have a girlfriend, but like I am seeing somebody, and then they start opening up their problems about that relationship to you. Diba, Dan?
Yeah.
Diba? But you become the friend that's like their shoulder to cry on, wherein they discuss the problems they have with their girlfriend, and a part of you's like, man, parang you don't deserve
I can
that.
do better than this. I can do it.
and you wanna help the guy, and then later on you're justifying, no, he's just being friendly. No, hindi, super friend lang. He just needs somebody to talk to. And then later on, exactly, you're in quicksand and you're sinking and you're falling for this person who's actually in a relationship.
Parang it boils down again to what you said, yung Messiah complex, no? Parang, I can fix this. I can do it better. I can ganun.
I don't know, Tuloy, like which one is better. Because the guys that talked to me before, who were in relationships, there was nothing wrong. Like, they didn't have a problem.
It's just a problem. Siya yung may problem.
Yeah, parang...
Landit lang talaga.
Hindi lang talaga.
May sakit na talaga siya.
You know what? You know, the most interesting thing I've heard from a man is like, I can't do this to her. Parang... Because the girl is this like precious woman that they can't be like, they have like these fantasies that they don't want to do with their wives or with their girlfriends.
Parang meron kasing there's this syndrome ba, or is it a complex, yung parang nililabel ng lalaki if a woman is their Madonna, which is like their precious wife, unspect, pure woman, and then sanitize tayo. I got this from a friend, a psychologist friend, na parang you're either a Madonna or you're his whore. Dalawa lang yung profile in the man's head. So, if you're his whore, lahat ng dirty things na gusto niyang gawin sa babae, fantasy ka niya. Ikaw yung receiver nun. Pero the wife will never know because to the wife, he's another person. So, I think men who do that are so conflicted too. Parang you really don't know what you want and your manhood is eroding because you're walking on two different paths and living out two different versions of yourself. No person in his sane mind lives in peace participating in that, right? As women also, we have to be smarter. Like I remember someone talking to me about his marital problems and ang sinabi ko lang, okay, I will pray for you. That's it. Parang, okay, I'll pray for you. I feel for you. I'm sorry you're going through this. I'll pray for you. Pero kung dati yan, oh, sige, you want to call? Like, you want to talk about it?
Wanna come over? Let's have a drink.
Yan, ganyan. Pero ngayon, di ba, parang, hindi na. We have a testimony to protect. We are witnesses for Jesus. We say that we're believers and then mga lalaki isipin na, kasi pain point ko yun eh. Na I've been I've been a bad testimony to men who I've allowed to use me and me use them. So parang once na nasober ako sa idea na yun, na Dana, iisipin ng mga lalaki na mga Kristiyanong babae, ganyan pala.
Oo.
And we have to be accountable.
Yeah. On my experience, because I also did have my time. But to be fair, ako, dadasabay ko kasi.
It depends. Agad wala pa yung kwento.
Wala pa nga yung kwento.
Wala pa yung kwento.
No, but I've talked to Mika about this in KUMU when it was pretty recent lang, diba? Na yung recent guy ko kasi, so we had a thing, we broke up, then my girlfriend na siya, but yung story namin was like kind of like naudlot. Yung breakup kasi namin was just because of distance. It wasn't like because we didn't like each other anymore. It was parang it was just inconvenient. So parang pause until like maybe in the future when we see each other. Ganun. So we stayed in contact, but he has a girlfriend now. Pero he keeps telling me he has feelings. So syempre ako, marupok pa din ako, and I still had feelings for him. So I would keep talking to him, but I always called him out. Pero truth of the matter is, I'm still talking to someone who has a girlfriend, and end of the day, he's still with her and not me. So actually, yung dapat nga na i-update ko kay Mika dun sa kanilang live stream was, I've managed to really call him out on it na talaga. Kasi before, when I would tell him na, you shouldn't flirt with me like that, parang stop, parang ganon, hindi yung, okay, listen. Hindi siya ganon. Parang stop. What else? Ganun siya. I was talking to someone, a friend who had been in a very narcissistic, very traumatic relationship. It made me realize na, shucks, wait lang, I have to value myself so I don't push it that far na I lose myself out of it and then may mawawala something. Because I'm in a good time right now. I've built myself when I think I'm ready for a relationship. And if I think that I'm possibly going to ruin that just because I can't let go of this guy who's in a relationship, parang sis, the risk is so high. Sorry, I'm a little bit, kasi, oh my God. This is a topic for another video, guys, because I have so much to say. Basically, guys, self-love and also realize na sometimes the guys just want someone to do things with, but that doesn't really mean that they really like you. They will play it out like they actually like you and they value you, when in fact they just want to fulfill sexual fantasies with you. I can relate because I have people na my girlfriend pero they want to try a plus size woman, but they don't want to date me. So parang,
guys, words are cheap. Words are cheap.
Correct.
Super cheap.
Let's be aware more or the red flags. Ang dami nag-submit yan, as in. I love how the questions are very related. Like, you can really tell na a lot of women are wondering almost the same things talaga. Oo. Ay, nako. Bakit uso sa mga babae ang toyo culture? Speaking of culture, what do you guys think of hubadera culture? Someone asked, what do you think about women looking for relationships in dating apps?